Hey, thanks for checking out the video. If you all like it, please like and subscribe, and hope you all enjoy it. Have a great rest of the day.
I'm speaking for Carol, president. She's lost her voice and having trouble. And I have a cough, so hopefully I can project. But we're going to start here, and as you see, the gentleman here from Thunder River, Carolina, and William, who's a reenactor who helps with the hearth cooks in the house. The house is open. We have all kind of activities inside the house, so you're welcome to stay and mingle around and just have a good time. But at this time, I'd like to call on Bill Anderson, and he will excuse me, give you a few words. And Bill, if you'll introduce yourself.
Okay, sure.
I'll be happy to lose my voice.
Okay. Well, hello. My name is Bill Anderson. I'm from Charlotte, and my only reason for speaking at this time is I wrote a kind of a detailed description of Cornwallis's route through Lincoln County. I did this several years ago. I'm going to try to recall as much as I can. Here, I didn't realize I'd be speaking at this moment, but I just learned moments ago. So, but this is a very important event. It's just fill in a little bit of the background of what happened, put the Cornwallis being here into context. This happened in early 1781 when Cornwallis came through this area. The war had already been in place, or had started in New England, and that had reached a stalemate. So the British had decided to move to the south. Their new strategy to try to win the American Revolution was to convince enough loyalists from the south to join up. And to convince the loyalists to do that, the British Army had to have successes through South Carolina and North Carolina. So to fill in the story at this moment, Cornwallis had at first tried to reach North Carolina through Charlotte. That was waylaid by the Battle of Kings Mountain. Cornwallis then retreated back to Winnsboro, South Carolina, and was there for from late October until early 1781. He got reinforcements coming through Charleston. This was the reinforcements from General Leslie Alexander. No, I'm sorry, General Leslie. And those reinforcements convinced Cornwallis that he could then reinvade North Carolina, this time not through Charlotte, but through Lincoln County. So a lot of history occurred right here in Lincoln County. To give you the first, just kind of plot it so that I can then fill in the story. He came up through what's now the western Lincoln County, but is now what is now western Lincoln County, but Lincoln County at that time was much larger. It included much of Cleveland County and, of course, all of Gaston County. So Cornwallis, at this point, was planning to invade all of North Carolina, but started at this location. And when he got to this location, he realized that in order to capture the prisoners that had his British prisoners that had been captured at Cowpens, he had to change his total concept of what he could and couldn't do. When he got to this location, at Ramsauer's Mill, he understood that the Americans were so far in advance that his only chance was to burn his baggage. So when he got to this, and baggage meaning all of his personal effects, all of the officers' personal effects, most of the wagons. This and his only, he felt that this was the only way that he could advance and make progress against the Americans who were retreating up towards Virginia. So that was a fateful decision. He made it here, and it was a necessary condition for him to have succeeded. It turns out that it was insufficient. Even though he did destroy his baggage, he still could not capture the Americans before they escaped to Virginia. You know the rest of the story about this was a year before Yorktown, so there was many other maneuvers that happened after this for the next year. But why don't I stop at that point? I don't want to take up too much time. I just want to fill you in with this snapshot of the story of what happened here at Ramsauer's Mill. If there's any questions, I'll try to answer, but perhaps I don't want to take too much time.
You're fine, as long as you want.
Well,
if you have questions.
Oh, well, okay. Does anyone have questions? Maybe. And I can fill in more of the details of what happened after here if that's of interest to you, but I thought I'd just leave it as a snapshot.
We've all talked about the Battle of Ramsauer's Mill, but burning of the baggage is something that I just kind of learned about when Dan He wrote his book. And if y'all haven't seen the signs over there that we put up on here now, we'll read the time. But is this some history that was just sort of forgotten for a while, or you just had to know your Revolutionary War history to know about this incident?
Well, it's always been written by scholars. There have always been books, but yeah, it's not appreciated to the degree that it should be. That's for sure. Yes, sir.
This Battle of Ramsauer's did it correlate by any chance in any way, or?
There were separate events. It most clearly just to think of them as separate events that just coincidentally happened at the same place. So, any other questions? If you want me to fill in more details, I'll be happy to do so, but I don't want to take out time, or there's a lot more interesting things happening. So,
You know they made it burn the rum.
yes. Shameful. They just, Cornwallis mentioned expressly that he had to destroy his rum, and no doubt that was not very pleasing to his troops.
I read that he gave them double rations the night before he burned it.
So thank you kindly.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that is burning of the baggage. Would y'all like to get a plug in for Thunder River, Carolina? Maybe introduce your
Hi, folks. Some of us are with an organization called Thunder Over Carolina, and what we do is educational outreach, and primarily about the Battle of Ramsauer's Mill, which is not this event, but as was said, a separate event. We do a dramatic version of the play to tell how the community got there, what happened to the community afterwards, and of course we do fight the battle on stage. We're going to do that this May. If you're interested, auditions will be the middle to last of February. If you'd care to learn more about us, we are Thunder Over Carolina Incorporated. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and the website. So we thank you for your interest in the history of Lincoln County, and hope to see you at one of our functions also. Thank you very much.
Be glad there's not actual rum on it. This one ear is now sweating.
It's brilliant, actually, to get Cornwallis and Chase. Williams and Green had separated, Cornwallis went after Williams, and then Williams is slowly making his way back to Green, and they are deliberately having him chase because every time they hit, they're hitting like guerrilla fighters. They're chipping away at his force. Over at Cowpens, there was a huge victory. Pretty much took all Bannister Tarleton's group, took most of them. This is going to be leading up to Guilford Courthouse battle, which technically is a British victory, but logistically it's a Patriot victory because they lost so many. The British lost so much of their force there. As Cornwallis is chasing, he's burning his baggage here, lightening up his train because he thinks he can catch, which he almost does catch Williams because he's trailing behind Green. There is the Yadkin River. Williams gets there, crosses the river. Cornwallis is literally on his heels, as in an hour behind. And they can see each other across the river. The Patriots are out of range. So all they can do is shoot cannon at them. They can't basically sit there and go, hi, you can't get us. The river is now so high, they don't have any boats to cross. There's nothing, no way for them to ford. So they get stuck there, and it gets stuck there for 2 days, which gives Williams time to catch up with Green, and now they're united. And it eventually ends up with the British surrender at Yorktown. So this is a key thing that happens is because his force is deprived of everything. Yes, sir.
Were Cornwallis's troops all British? Partly
Loyalists. There were some loyalists. They were British, but they pulled from the local area here, which was actually a loyalist stronghold. Yes, ma'am. This was a loyalist stronghold, actually, but they were kind of wishy-washy. With the defeats that the British were suffering, they kind of like going, we're going to be living here. We're going to take a little less loyalist stance, and so Cornwallis was not getting the support that he thought he was going to get. As he followed Green up, Green had already laid supplies for him and his troops to come and grab. Cornwallis burned everything here. He was hoping he'd get support along the way. He wasn't getting it. His people were running ragged, chasing.
and he burned it. Why?
He thought it would lighten the load because he had wagons, he had distaff, he had, when the army travels, they have a lot of gear. The officers, they had tents, they furniture, aside from just the provisions that they had. The British had a little bit more luxury, let's say, than the Patriot forces. The Patriot forces at this point in time are moving fast, quick. Most of the time do not really have anything but a makeshift shelter. Clothing is pretty ragged, cobbled together from varying sources. A lot of militia for the Patriot forces at this point in time. But still, Cornwallis was a couple thousand strong coming through. But moving an army of that size quickly is the problem. By the time they got to the Yadkin River, it was, they're exhausted. And then by the time they got to Yorktown, they could not withstand what was going on. I mean, on top of that, Cornwallis had a terrible case of dysentery. By the time he got to Yorktown, he was done, physically and mentally.
Lincoln County's revenge.
Exactly.
The British soldiers that were taken prisoner at Cowpens, he wanted them back. He was trying to capture them, trying to capture Green and get the prisoners back. Where were they? I understand they were taken up to Virginia.
Yes.
Where geographically in Virginia were they taken to?
I want to say it was.
It's helpful.
Yes.
And maybe add some context to it. They went to Fredericksburg for the most part. That was a prison that was
Fredericksburg.
used. Fredericksburg, Maryland.
Oh, Maryland.
Yes. And that's where, for the most part, they were kept.
Okay.
And just to ask a question about what troops were here, there was this was very high quality troops. For that on the British side, there were troops that were Jaegers, or the riflemen from who were Hessians. It included the unit called the Brigade of Guards, which was has a rich history from England. So these were top-notch troops. Now this is different from the Battle of Ramsauer's Mill that occurred 7 months earlier. But the troops that came through here were very highly professional troops with Cornwallis were high-quality troops. Just to list some of them, there were the British Legion, led by Tarleton, was here. The Brigade of Guards, the 23rd Regiment, the 23rd Regiment.
I think the 17th Dragoons were here also.
Yes. And so these were these included troops that had recently reinforced Cornwallis to come up from Charleston, but they were all here. They were relatively fresh troops. But when he got to this point, he had to make that fateful decision that he realized that he could not. There was no way of capturing the Americans unless he burned his baggage. So I hope that's helpful in detail.
So, any other questions?
So I think I had a follow-up to his, and I couldn't hear exactly
Yes.
what he asked. But like all the prisoners that were taken at Kings Mountain?
Actually, a lot of them kind of escaped. They were, as they traveled up, a lot of them went home. There were very few British regulars actually at Kings Mountain. It was mostly a loyalist force that the Over Mountain men came down. I think of the 600 that were captured, maybe 200 and change got to wherever it is they were taking them.
So was more than taking prisoners?